Then they decided to change what they called it again. Then it became man-made global climate change. So then they could say, well, geez, if we get a huge snowstorm one year, yeah, that's due to man-made global climate change. If we get a weak-ass hurricane, but, it's pretty big, 1,000 miles across, but if we get a weak-ass hurricane like Sandy that marches up the East Coast, and Hurricane Sandy was weak. It was only a Category 1. Well, that's due to man-made global climate change, too. Forget the fact that hurricane Category 3s and 4s have hit the East Coast, going up as far as New England in the past. In the distant past, before man-made global warming came into existence. Before it was possible for man to have caused global climate change. Forget those facts. Oh, no. We're going to teach today's kids that it's all our fault. It's our fault that beaches are being eroded. Well, wait a minute. The sea is going to do that anyway, right? That's what the tide does. It's the moon's fault. The moon causes the rise and fall of the tide, and the wind causes waves. So how is it man's fault that a beach gets eroded? It's going to happen whether we're here or not. Oh, but no. It's man-made global climate change. And when the weather doesn't do what they predict it's going to do, then they say, well, see, it's man-made global climate change. The United States has not been hit by a Category 3 or the mainland United States has not been hit by a Category 3 or higher hurricane since Katrina. People, do you know Katrina was what, 6, 7, 8 years ago now? I don't know. I guess that's man-made global climate change. But this is the kind of stuff that they're teaching our kids in public schools. This is why they don't want vouchers, and this is why they don't want parents to be able to choose. Because let me tell you something. When you look at kids who are at least partly educated in parochial, private, or homeschool, they don't have the same worldview as the public school kids. I mean, it's you can't argue with the facts, folks. So we've got this mentality that we've got to, well, we have got to get a hold of the educational system. I don't know how we can do it. But, yeah, well, I do. I mean, but parents are going to have to get involved, and God forbid parents get involved in their child education. I know the left says they keep saying that they want parents to be more involved, but they really don't. Because whenever a parent decides that they don't want their kid to learn something like sex education, oh man, they dump on the parent big time. They don't really want the parents involved, but they have forced parents out of the classroom, and then they use that excuse of parents not being involved in their kids' education as an excuse for the child not succeeding in school. When they've taken so much time to push the parent out. And now that they've succeeded in that, now it gives them an out when they fail to educate your child. Well, it's parents' fault. They're not involved. Well, you don't want the parent involved because every time the parent gets involved, you want the parent to go home. The parent tells you, you're not going to educate my kid. Oh, no, that's part of the curriculum. If they want to pass, if you want your kid to go on to the next grade, they got to take this class. They got to take homosexuality class. They got to take alternative lifestyle class. They got to take sex education class. They got to take porno class. I don't want my kid learning that stuff. Well, they ain't going to graduate. So every time a kid, the parents try to get in there and be active, they don't want parents there. So when the parents aren't there, then they blame the parents for not being there. It's their excuse. So we got to get a hold. How do you get a hold of the educational system? Yeah, parents have got to demand to be involved in their kids' classroom and education. And take the time to educate your kid at home. A kid comes home. Hey, little Johnny, what'd you learn today? Oh, we learned that the Earth is slowing down because man is flying too many airplanes. Well, then you got to correct them. You've got to be the parent that corrects them and shows them the proof that their teacher is wrong. You know, you do that, and you know, to do that, it's oh, yes, it is true. For folks who are listening to this broadcast as a recording, I'm just trying to read and follow along in the chat room as well. I don't usually do that too often while I'm talking to you, but sometimes certain things catch my eye. And a person in the chat room is saying that if you deny global warming, you are called a hater of science. This is true. But we're often told, and I got this a couple of weeks ago when discussing man-made global warming. Well, every legitimate scientist believes in man-made global climate change. And when I pointed out the fact that that was such a lie, and I pointed to organizations of learned scientists like meteorologists, people who actually study the climate, and climatologists, people who actually study historical data on climate, and a large group of anthropologists and archaeologists and other scientists don't believe in man-made global climate change. Then they say, well, that's not true. And then when you show them all the different links and petitions that these groups have, and they say, well, they're dumb scientists. Really? So the only smart scientists are the ones that say that there's man-made global climate change? When the evidence, the factual historical evidence would suggest otherwise. I love it when you ask people, in man's history, outside of the 19th and 20th century, and this is the 21st century, but outside of the 19th and 20th century, when the Industrial Revolution took place in the 19th century, outside of the 19th century, before the 19th century, in man's history, has it been proven that the climate has been both warmer and colder than it is today? Yes. Was it man-made global climate change back then? Well, no. Well, then why is it today? Well, you can't deny that we're having an effect. I'm going to tell you that I think it's pretty arrogant to think that we could affect the earth that bad, that we're going to change the entire climate in about 100 years. And you misconstrued what I say. I am not saying that it is okay to pollute. I am not saying that it is okay not to try to get to be more energy efficient. Most conservatives want energy efficiency. I mean, if anything, we understand it saves us money. I mean, this whole notion, the climate that we have today is not the same climate that the planet had 200, 300 years ago. Remember, there was a point in time that England had snow. Charles Dickens, he wasn't writing about fantasy. He was writing about stuff that was happening during his time period. We also know that there's been more than one giant warming periods in human history, because during those giant warming periods, people were able to grow more temperate crops farther and farther north into England, into Sweden and Norway, and the population at the time boomed because of that. Oh, but no. We've got global, man-made global climate change now. We also know that there's been a time when the polar ice caps were melted to near zero. And we also know that, the polar ice caps, they grew so damn much, we call it the Ice Age. So where does man fit into all of this? I'm telling you, it isn't due to our SUV. I mean, it's just no. Well, it is what it is, and it comes down to one word. Comes down to one simple word: edumacation. Now, for those of you in Rush Limbaugh's Ria Linda, that is the way I mispronounce on purpose the word education. It makes a point. Well, you never know. I mean, sometimes I get emails from people that it blows my mind. Do they really think that that's what I really think? Evidently they do. Hey, if you ever want to contact me, you can email me too, rod@rodeccles.com. I don't hide it. Well, there's no way to contact you, Rod. Well, right now we're trying to figure out this whole using a phone number on Spreaker and getting the platform and everything in place so we can have multiple calls. Still working on that. Spreaker is a great system, but they have this little quirk that makes it difficult to use phone numbers to make it a call-in show. Maybe that's not what they really intended to have happen, but it is doable and possible. But there are some pieces that you got to put together and stuff like that in order for it to work. But we'll get there, and you'll be able to call me again. But in the meantime, just write me if you want at rod@rodeccles.com, or just go to my Facebook page or tweet me or something. Hey, people try to slam me all the time on my Facebook page. Doesn't work because then they end up with egg on their face. But there you go. And also rodeccles.com is always refreshed by 10 p.m. After the show. So you can also get further information and links and stuff at that particular point in time. Here's something from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. This is kind of interesting. This is a story. The afternoon drive time show hosted by outspoken sports talk radio host Kevin Slayton has been dumped by KFNS 590 AM radio following racially orientated comments he made on the air last week. So says station general manager Katie Pavelonis, Paveloinis. Now, last Thursday's broadcast led to the show termination conversation we had today, she said. We are parting ways. The station is going in a little bit different direction. Oh, now because you can't say anything negative about the potentate, the one, the Messiah, little m, Barack Obama. Now, Pavelonis said Slayton was not a direct employee of the station, as his arrangement had him selling his own advertising as an independent contractor. So technically he wasn't fired. His show was just canceled. He was syndicated, basically. Now, the gist of Slayton's remarks were that African Americans voted for President Barack Obama because he is black. And this is the quote: "The next time someone tells me that the black voters are not bigoted, stick it in the trash can because black voters are bigoted. 93% voted for Obama. 6% voted for Romney. You're bigots." Now, me being a black man, I have to stand by this guy 100%. Look, many of them tell us the reason why they vote for Obama because they say, and I quote, "We blacks have to stick together." So that means that they were voting for Obama strictly because of the color of his skin. Forget the fact that, the man is half white and half African, not African American, but half African. But no, it's just strictly the color of his skin. And forget the fact that during the debates, and I have been vindicated because there are other people who have chimed in on this as well. I have said that the left is the racist part because if you actually watch the debates, I did, especially debate number 2. Barack Obama, the lighting that they had on him on purpose, washed him out so bad that it appeared he was only a shade or two darker than Mitt Romney. That was to get the sympathy vote of liberal whites. Trust me on this, folks. They knew they had blacks